So after having received the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, having satisfied his preceptor, Lord Brahma, Pṛthu Maharaj is entering into the city, which was beautifully decorated to receive him with pearls, flower garlands, beautiful cloth, and golden gates. And the entire city was fragrant. The fragrance was coming from the water distilled from sandalwood and aguru herb, which were sprinkled everywhere on the lanes, roads, and small parks throughout the city. So in this way, the whole decoration uh, and the ambience that got created were very attractive. Prabhupada in the first purport itself is pointing out that this is the sign of Vedic civilization, that the real opulence is supplied by natural gifts such as gold, silver, pearls, valuable stones, fresh flowers, trees, and silken cloth. Thus, the Vedic civilization recommends opulence and decoration with these natural gifts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then when the reception was given to the king that was full of opulence, the question is, how did Pṛthu Maharaj respond to that? So in the fifth verse, very interestingly, it is pointed out, when the king entered the palace, conch shells and kettle drums were sounded, priests chanted Vedic mantras, and professional reciters offered different prayers. But in spite of all this ceremony to welcome him, the king was not the least bit affected. So this is the humble demeanor of Pṛthu Maharaj, and Prabhupada points out in the fifth purport that the reception given to the king was full of opulence, yet he did not become proud. It is said, therefore, that great personalities of power and opulence never become proud. And the example is given that a tree which is full of fruits and flowers does not stand erect in pride, but instead bends downwards to show submissiveness. This is a sign of the wonderful character of great personalities. So Pṛthu Maharaj in this way ruled for years very responsibly according to the instructions that he had received from the Supreme Lord. He was especially attentive to ensure that he and his citizens performed sacrifices to please the Supreme Lord, and each citizen is well taken care of, and they are working according to their prescribed duties. So Prabhupada in the sixth purport is writing, a responsible king was always approachable by his citizens. Generally, the citizens, great and common, all had an aspiration to see the king and take benediction from him. The king knew this, and therefore, whenever he met the citizens, he immediately fulfilled their desires or mitigated their grievances. In such dealings, a responsible monarchy is better than a so-called democratic government in which no one is responsible to mitigate the grievances of the citizens who are unable to personally meet the supreme executive head. In a responsible monarchy, the citizens had no grievances against the government, and even if they did, they could approach the king directly for immediate satisfaction. So the character of Pṛthu Maharaj is most emphatically brought out in verse number 7, where it is stated that King Pṛthu was greater than the greatest soul and was therefore worshipable by everyone. He performed many glorious activities in ruling over the surface of the world and was always magnanimous. After achieving such great success and a reputation which spread throughout the universe, he at last obtained the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Interestingly, the Shaktiavesh avatar of the Supreme Lord is able to obtain the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this context, Prabhupada is explaining um, in the purport to verse number 7 um, that um, first of all, what is the duty of the king, and then Prabhupada goes into discussing what is Parampadam, that promotion to the transcendental world, that is the destination of Pṛthu Maharaj. So that is explained further. So Prabhupada is writing here that Parampadam or the Vaikuntha planets can be achieved only by devotional service. The impersonal Brahman region is also called Parampadam, but unless one is attached to the personality of God, one must again fall down to the material world from the impersonal Parampadam situation. It said therefore, Arya Krichena Parampadam Tataha Patanti Adho. The impersonalists endeavor very strenuously to achieve the Parampadam or impersonal Brahmajyoti, but unfortunately, being bereft of a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they come down again to the material world. If one flies in outer space, he can go very high up, but unless he reaches a planet, he must come down again to earth. Similarly, because the impersonalists who reach the Parampadam of the impersonal Brahmajyoti do not enter into the Vaikuntha planets, they come down again to this material world and are given shelter in one of the material planets. Although they may attain Brahmalok or Satyalok, all such planets are situated in the material world. So the point is that Pṛthu Maharaj had a personal relationship with the Supreme Personality of God, and as a result, at last he obtained the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And then it is described in the 10th verse that Pṛthu Maharaj was so great in his activities and magnanimous in his method of ruling that all the kings and demigods on the various planets still follow in his footsteps. Who is there who will not try to hear about his glorious activities? So now Vidura is expressing to Maitreya Rishi, after getting enthralled with what he heard from him about the qualities and activities of Pṛthu Maharaj. So he wishes to hear more and more about Pṛthu Maharaj because his activities are so pious and auspicious. So Prabhupada in the 10th purport is saying that Saint Vidura's purpose in hearing about Pṛthu Maharaj over and over again was to set an example for ordinary kings and executive heads who should all be inclined to hear repeatedly about Pṛthu Maharaj's activities in order to also be able to rule over their kingdoms or states very faithfully for the peace and prosperity of the people in general. Unfortunately, at the present moment, no one cares to hear about Pṛthu Maharaj or to follow in his footsteps. Therefore, no nation in the world is either happy or progressive in spiritual understanding, although that is the sole aim and objective of human life. So now Maitreya Rishi starts describing the overall activities of Pṛthu Maharaj, that Pṛthu Maharaj lived in the tract of land between the two great rivers, Ganga and Yamuna. Because he was very opulent, it appeared that he was enjoying his destined fortune in order to diminish the results of his past pious activities. Very quickly, the pious and impious reference that comes in the 11th verse, Prabhupada explains the terms pious and impious are applicable only in reference to the activities of an ordinary living being. But Pṛthu Maharaj was a directly empowered incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, he was not subject to the reactions of past or pious and impious activities. When a living entity is specifically empowered by the Supreme Lord to act for a particular purpose, he is called a Shaktavish avatar. Pṛthu Maharaj was not only a Shaktavish avatar, but also a great devotee. A devotee is not subjected to the reactions resulting from past deeds. And then there is a long purport in 12th verse where it is pointed out Maharaj Pṛthu was an unrivaled king and possessed the scepter for ruling all the 7 islands on the surface of the globe. No one could disobey his irrevocable orders but the saintly persons, the Brahmanas, and the descendants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the Vaishnavas. So, interestingly, in this particular purport, 12th verse purport, it's pointed out that Saptadvip, that is being referred to in this verse, refers to the 7 great islands or continents on the surface of the globe, which are the modern 7 continents. In the modern age, people are under the impression that during the Vedic period or the prehistoric ages, America and many other parts of the world had not been discovered, but that is not a fact. Pṛthu Maharaj ruled over the world many thousands of years before the so-called prehistoric age, and it is clearly mentioned here that in those days not only were all the different parts of the world known, but they were ruled by one king, Maharaj Pṛthu. The country where Pṛthu Maharaj resided must have been India, because it is stated in the 11th verse of this chapter that he lived in the tract of land between the rivers Ganga and Yamuna. This tract of land, which is called Brahmavarta, consists of what is known in the modern age as portions of Punjab and northern India. It is clear that the kings of India once ruled all the world and that their culture was Vedic. So after all of these wonderful descriptions of qualities of Pṛthu Maharaj, then now Maitreya Rishi is describing that Pṛthu Maharaj initiated the performance of a very great sacrifice in which great saintly persons, great saintly sages, brahmanas, demigods from higher planetary systems, and great saintly kings known as Rajashis all assembled together. So here in the 13th purport, Prabhupada is pointing out that formerly the demigods used to come to this planet. Similarly, great personalities like Arjuna, Yudhishthir, and many others used to visit higher planetary systems. Thus, there was interplanetary communication via suitable airplanes and space vehicles. So you can see where the ideas of Star Wars and all these things come from. Okay, thank you very much. We'll continue with next, how it will land up in Maharaj Pṛthu instructing his citizens, and that section is going to be very, very instructive. Thank you very much.